Hi, my name is Darius Goodall, and today I'm going to talk to you about Barracuda's zero-touch deployment of our cloud generation firewalls in an SD-WAN environment. Let's talk about what we've got over here. We've got a headquarters office over here that we've already established with a cloud generation firewall set up and running on the local area network. And we've got other offices over here, one of which is online. And today what we're going to do is we're going to bring this other office here up online with zero-touch deployment. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to place an order with Barracuda for the cloud generation firewall that we're going to deploy at this site over here. So having placed that order, the nice thing about this is that you will not actually see that box until it gets to site. Perhaps you're not actually even going to go to site to actually deploy it either. So you place the order with Barracuda and the order ships. Okay, while that's happening, let's go back and look at our task list of things to do. We've placed our order over here. Now let's talk about configuration. As I said earlier, we've got a couple of sites already deployed over here with the cloud generation firewalls. And it's important to note that a lot of this, or all of this, is actually managed from an application that we call the Firewall Control Center. This is a centralized management console that allows you to configure your entire SD-WAN deployment or your entire firewall deployment. You'll notice as well that all that we're using over here, all we have to configure is just a firewall. We don't have to configure an SD-WAN device, a firewall, a router, and a WAN optimization device. That's because the firewall does it all itself. So what we're doing over here in creating a firewall is we're essentially creating that configuration script that'll be used and pushed to our new firewall as and when it's deployed, or as soon as it comes online. What that means is that this configuration script takes care of all your routing, all your advanced security, all your profiles for all your different users, the prioritization for your applications, and how those SD-WAN connections that we're going to bring up online over here have been used. And as soon as it comes up online, it becomes a part of our entire infrastructure. So, for example, our core cloud generation firewall might have multiple links, because this is the central site, up to the internet. All right? Those are typically provided by various different service providers to get that kind of resilience and redundancy that we require. This location over here might have 2. It can have up to 24 to be able to kind of deal with the most challenging scenarios or the most demanding deployments. Okay? And of course, because this is an SD-WAN deployment, likely one of the biggest drivers for this is in fact the cloud in of itself. So you might have applications deployed up into the cloud, which would be with AWS or Azure, so that we'll call this one public cloud, okay? Or you might just simply using SaaS, such as Office 365. Okay, either way, it's probably a big driver for you to migrate to SD-WAN. All right, so I think we've given enough time for our device to ship, and while you've gone away and created your config, you probably also send an email to somebody who's going to receive that box at the remote location with directions on how to actually plug it in. All right, so this also is a CGF. And we're going to plug it into power. We're going to plug it into our local area network. And we're going to take 2 connections in this instance up to the cloud. All right? So those are typically, again, deployed through different service providers so that you can get a certain redundancy or resiliency. Now what happens is, as soon as this box gets powered up, it goes up and registers in Barracuda's data center over here, specifically with the zero-touch deployment service. All right? Think of the zero-touch deployment service as a brokering service or a meet-in-the-cloud service where firewalls can come to be claimed. And as soon as we get up there, what we're looking for, we ask the CGF for this, is the serial number of the device. That serial number matches your customer profile back down at your firewall control center down over here. And the result of this action is it tells us to point over there. So whilst the boxes are already connected to the zero-touch deployment service through a minimal amount of information, which contains none of your sensitive configuration up in the Barracuda cloud, it allows us to direct the new cloud generation firewall to the firewall control center so that we can download the configuration. So we create, if you like, this virtual connection, and I'll draw it with a dotted line, back to our firewall control center, asking essentially for my configuration. That configuration is then returned down to the box, and it becomes provisioned. The box essentially comes online, all right? And there is no need to actually go to site, configure it, manage it, or anything else. Everything is done remotely, having created that profile itself and pushed it down to site. Now, obviously, as you know, the reason why we're doing this is to create agility, is to achieve agility. In an MPLS world, this whole process might have taken months. In our world, it takes as long as it takes to actually ship the device to site, order your DSL or ADSL communications, and the final config or commissioning takes less than 5 minutes. Now that's agility. That's how you want to deploy an SD-WAN. That's how you want to bring up your infrastructure. And of course, because you have tens, hundreds of these sites, you want to be able to deal with the configuration and the management of all those devices as if they are one, all right? We want to take our firewalls, which have the WAN optimization, which have the SD-WAN capability, the advanced firewalling, the advanced threat protection, all of that, and manage it through a single source, and manage them all as if they were one firewall. That's the power of the Barracuda SD-WAN solution. Thank you very much for joining me.